Cardinals baseball is next. It'll be Matt Carpenter to lead it off over his last 20, then Tommy Pham and Johnny Peralta, Jason Hayward, Yadier Molina, Stephen Piscotty, Reynolds, Garcia, and Lynn. The starting 9 for St. Louis. And the first pitch is taken for a ball. On the bench tonight, 2 lefties, Wong and Moss, and Borges, Cosma, and Cruz from the right side. Jhoulys Chacín is the pitcher for Arizona.
We were expecting to see Robbie Ray up until about 3 o'clock this afternoon. They brought Chacín up from AAA. He'd been in AAA all summer long, 6-6 with an ERA of 3. A former opening day starter for the Rockies.
Matt Carpenter is batting .260. 18 home runs, 64 driven in. Off to a tough start in this road trip, 0 for 11 and 0 for his past 20. And the 1-2. Greg Gibson is your home plate umpire. Chad Fairchild at first. Pat Hoberg is at second. Jim Joyce, the crew chief, down at third. The 2-2. Fouled back by Carpenter.
Chacín does not throw as hard as he used to as we look at our umpires here for this series. There's the crew chief, Jim Joyce at third. Gibson, Fairchild, and Hoberg are the other umpires. But Chacín used to throw 92. 2 kinds of breaking balls, slider, curveball, and a changeup. Doesn't throw as hard, but has a little more sink and downward movement. Can touch 90 as he did there.
How about these Arizona Diamondbacks? 18-10 in their last 28. They've won 4 in a row. First time they've been a game over 500 since April 22nd. And a high fly ball lifted into left center field. There's the red hot A.J. Pollock. Former second baseman and third baseman in the big leagues. That's Chip Hale. And they are raving about the job he and his staff have done. Look at the defense. And also this inning, a look at the pitch arsenal presented by Hyundai.
There's the 5 pitches for Chacín. He will throw the changeup often. And as a starter with the Rockies, we saw it a lot. It was a tough pitch to hit. And he doesn't strike out a lot of guys, doesn't walk a lot of guys. Not really an overpowering right-hander. Still just 27 years of age. He's trying to remake his career following a couple of seasons with shoulder problems.
2 balls, no strikes on Tommy Pham. Pham was 6 for 15 over the weekend against the Padres. And he lines it into center field. There's Pollock again. 2 down. Dobbs Tire and Auto Center's defense with Peralta in left, Pollock in center, and Ciarte is in right. Lamb, Owings, Hill, Goldschmidt, MVP candidate at first, and Wellington Castillo, the former Cub, behind the plate.
This is a Diamondbacks team that does a lot of things well, including defend. They run the bases better than anybody in baseball. They also defend well, and they hit well. Pitching is really their issue.
2 outs, nobody on for Johnny Peralta. Peralta hitting .285, 16 home runs, 56 RBIs. Arizona's starting play tonight, just 5 back of the Dodgers, who have lost 5 straight. Arizona wins 4 straight, and all of a sudden they've made up a lot of ground. The 2-0. There's a base hit off the bat of Peralta. There's David Peralta, no relation, getting it back in. So the Cardinals are catching Arizona at the wrong time. One of the hottest teams in baseball since July 25th. Arizona 18-10. We saw a very good club over the weekend with San Diego. The Phillies have been better. Baltimore still in the wild card hunt in the American League.
The last team they beat up on was the Cincinnati Reds. They took 4 straight in a series in Cincinnati. The Reds have now lost 9 straight.
The Cubs win again today. Walk-off homer for Chris Bryant. 2-1 the final. It was a makeup date against Cleveland. So Chicago, as we speak, 6 games back of St. Louis, and they'll head out on the road beginning tomorrow. Here's a 2-0. 2 balls, 1 strike on Hayward. And we saw in the series in St. Louis, the Cardinals had a sweep against the Diamondbacks. All those games were tight, but boy, they shifted as much as anybody we've seen this year.
Yeah, the shift certainly on here for Hayward. And this ballpark, we should point out, is really, in my mind, a hitter's ballpark. The ball carries here tremendously. We saw Hayward in batting practice hit a bunch of bombs here, and he's swinging the bat well lately.
2 balls, 2 strikes. He was a homer away from the cycle yesterday.
Gets the call up in the zone here, and you know, I think it's tied to the shift question, how the ball carries. You almost want to entice a guy to go the other way, especially if he's a guy with some pop.
In the air, deep right field. Inciarte is back in. Hayward just missed it. He skies it into deep right field. Just missed it. Field. Chip Hale's lineup with Inciarte and Pollock and Goldschmidt here in the first. Then Peralta, Castillo, Lamb, Hill, Owings, and Chacin. Jared Saltalamacchia. He's now with Arizona. Switch hitter. Backup catcher Nick Ahmed, Hernandez, and Yasmani Tomas on the bench. Lance Lynn gets start number 24 here tonight.
There's no official number of years, Dan, when you become a veteran in this game, but how can you not consider Lance Lynn a veteran in his 5th season as a Cardinal? He's been durable. He pitches a lot of innings and was a lot better his last time out. 2 outings ago, he got roughed up and made a nice kind of bounce back in his last outing despite picking up the loss against the Giants.
Ender Inciarte is batting .295 with 4 home runs. He's driven in 34. A little tap route in front of the plate. Molina pounces on it for the first out. One out, and it brings in A.J. Pollock.
That's a new level of hustling off the field, isn't it?
It's a race with Goldschmidt and Hill, and they do that time and again when you watch the Arizona Diamondbacks day in and day out. Arizona leads the National League in runs scored. A big reason why is A.J. Pollock. They're averaging 4.6 runs a game after finishing last season 11th in the National League in scoring. There's a look at the Hyundai pitch arsenal.
He had the first 2 pitches. They're both fastballs. That's 84% of the time, and that's what you're going to get from Lance Lynn. And when he's right, he's got a good curveball as well. There's the sinker. 2 kinds of fastballs. One that goes down, one that rides up.
I'm sure there's many that don't follow the Diamondbacks saying, well, how are they doing this? What are they doing differently now? And one of the unsung heroes, if you will, of this team, and a guy that doesn't get a lot of attention, is at the plate, and that's A.J. Pollock. He's hit .449 in his last 16 games. He's had a tremendous season. And a fly ball lifted into deep right center. There's Hayward on the track and with just enough room to put it away. The ball, you're right, Rick, it is carrying. Piscotty in left, Pham in center, Hayward is in right. Carpenter, Peralta, Garcia, and Reynolds along the infield. Yadier Molina behind the plate. Dobbs tired out of center's defense.
Well, you and I talked a couple weeks ago about Pollock being on the all underrated team. You and I just kind of throwing some names out there, but in some ways, Paul Goldschmidt is underrated too. And of course, people know who he is, but he is one of the premier players in the game, and I don't know that he would make people's short list the way he should.
Tony La Russa, who runs this organization now on the baseball side, said the greatest compliment I can give to Paul Goldschmidt is that I compare him to Albert Pujols. He said he's that type of player. He's that talented.
And he also said that's a compliment to Albert Pujols as well.
Right. Goldschmidt is a 20-20 man. Wanted to work on stolen bases this year, so he's gone out and stolen 20 this season. to go along with 24 home runs and 93 RBIs. Ground ball with the breaking ball by Lynn, and Carpenter throws over to Mark Reynolds. There's Tony La Russa there on the left. 1, 2, 3 go the Diamondbacks.
Then you have to control the running game. Molina certainly will be his job to do that, and also control Pollock and Goldschmidt. They're the big run producers. This Diamondback team leads the National League in runs scored.
And a ground ball too short, taken there by Chris Owings. One away. In steps Stephen Piscotty, fresh off his 2-home run afternoon in San Diego. 5 RBIs. He's done a tremendous job since being called up. And that pitch is taken low.
And home run number 2 is off of Craig Kimbrell. And there's something about that, Dan, that I think is even more elevating than the fact that he had 3 hits in the game and 2 of them were home runs. The fact that one of them was against Kimbrell.
Extra bases here. On his way to second base, Piscotty. As Peralta digs it out of the corner in left field. He now has 5 more hits than any other Cardinal in the month of August. So it's not just a rookie and the numbers he's putting up as a young player, but what he's done in general here in the month of August. 5 more hits than any other Cardinal. St. Louis his second hit tonight, and it brings in Mark Reynolds.
And the last 5 hits he's had have all been for extra bases too, including a double here just inside the bag. I also like the way he runs the bases.
Mark Reynolds very comfortable in this ballpark. Started his big league career with the Diamondbacks, was their everyday third baseman. 10 home runs on the year. Here's the 0-1 pitch to Reynolds.
That's Jake Lamb, the third baseman. A rookie for the Diamondbacks on the dive. A couple inches short.
And the 0-2. Strikeout of Reynolds. First strikeout for Chacin tonight.
Well, Chacin has 2 breaking balls. One's sharper than the other, and the other one's bigger than the slider. And that's the slider there. The curveball is about 3 miles an hour slower, but it's not your classic curveball. It's really just more of an open slider. Change speeds a bit with that pitch. It can be tough when he's on.
Greg Garcia was 0 for 4 yesterday, but stunned the baseball. And that's the game, isn't it? Sometimes you get those bloops and blasts that you love to talk about. And other times you hit the ball so sharply and you have nothing to show for it.
It's frustrating. You go home at the end of the day and you think, hey, did you have a good day, honey? Well, yes and no.
Right. Hit the ball well, saw the ball well. 0 for 4. Here's a 1-0. 1 ball, 1 strike with Lance Lynn on deck. Cardinals do not score much for Lance Lynn. Doesn't get a lot of run support. As a matter of fact, for pitchers that have 15 or more starts this year, Lance Lynn is 4th in terms of lack of run support. Ground ball to the right side, taken there by Aaron Hill. And Piscotty is left stranded. But it's another extra base hit for the Cardinals rookie, making an impact. No score. Let's check in with Pat Paris.
Dan, yesterday, of course, Jason Hayward was a home run shy of the cycle when he stepped to the plate in the 9th inning yesterday afternoon in San Diego, and he was excited to face his former Braves teammate Craig Kimbrell. he had no idea that he needed just the home run for the cycle. He said didn't even cross his mind until he was done with that at bat and he made the out that he was told about the near cycle. And he said, you know, he wished he would have known, but on the other hand, he wouldn't have changed his approach anyway. He just wanted to try to get a hit off his former teammate.
And a tough guy to face, as we all know, in Craig Kimbrell. And you mentioned it yesterday. You said, Dan, do you think we went down and asked Jason Hayward he would know that he's home run away from the cycle? Yeah, sure. Why not? You said, I don't think so.
And Pat found out the answer. How about that?
Well, too bad Jason lied to Pat because he knew it the whole time. No, I don't know.
Well, he was locked in and certainly had a nice day offensively. It was good, Pat, to have both Jason Hayward and Stephen Piscotty have big nights in the same game.
Here's a 2-1 pitch to David Peralta, who's found a home here in Arizona. His name may ring a bell for Cardinal fans. He was signed as a pitcher in the mid-2000s, and the Cardinals released him because of shoulder injuries. Returned to Venezuela, that's where he's from. Vowed to make it as a position player, and here he is. Great story. And he strikes out against Lynn, the first of the night for Lance Lynn. 6 is a serious number and on the run. When the Cardinals score 6, any size drink, just 50 cents the next day. That's coffee, fountain, frozen drinks. When they score, you pour it your nearest on the run. You earned it.
I've told this story before, but I remember Luis Roman playing with him. He was an outfielder, got released, went home, came back as a pitcher. But the great thing about him, and he was a Cardinal both times, he was a 21-year-old outfielder, got released, went home, came back as a 20-year-old pitcher somehow. I don't know how that happened.
That happens. Not nearly as frequent, though.
Not
you see
anymore.
that because of 9/11.
Yes, exactly right.
Did not go. 1 ball, 1 strike on Wellington Castillo, the former Cubs catcher.
Having a nice power season here. Again, we mentioned the ball carries well here. Certainly does in Chicago on certain days.
In the air, right center. That's well hit. Pham is on the move. At the wall, and it's gone.
As if to prove the point that the ball carries here, Castillo almost inside outs that ball a little bit and hits it out in right center field. It's 413 feet to the deepest part of the ballpark here, and it was a bit to the right of that sign, but still a 400-foot blast.
Home run number 17 for Wellington Castillo, his 41st RBI, and it brings in Jake Lamb. Arizona is 16-1 in their last 17 games when they homer. Keep that in mind. And now in 18 of his 24 starts, Lynn is pitching behind in a game. So he's given up that first run in 18 of 24 starts. And a hot shot to Carpenter. He couldn't handle it.
Well, you know, Lance knows both sides of that coin because a couple of years ago he had the best run support in all of baseball. But he gets behind on this pitch to Castillo. Location, middle in. Again, a little bit, I wouldn't say in on his hands, but I wasn't sure he'd gotten the best part of the bat on that ball. But look how well it carries. That's 400 feet the other way.
And it brings in Aaron Hill, who's hitting .230. Remember, this is a lineup that when we last saw them featured Mark Trumbo has tremendous power. He was traded away. Diamondbacks rebuilding here, but now 5 games out, a little over a month to play. They're thinking, can we sneak in there? Maybe they can. I think what you have to look at too with Arizona, in their last 30 games, if you break it down even further, 19-11, Rick, and 20 of the 30 were on the road.
And those road trips, Dan, totaled 10,000 miles.
Yes.
The first trip was to Seattle first from Arizona. They went to Seattle, then Houston, then Washington, D.C., then back home. That was 6,200 miles. Then they went from Atlanta to Pittsburgh to Washington again, and that was over 4,300 miles. So 10,000 miles of travel in the last month for this team, but they are not showing any signs of being weary.
3-1 the count on Aaron Hill. Peralta backhands, and they'll get the lead man. Garcia to first and throws it away. That'll put a man in scoring position. Bray Garcia trying to do a little too much.
Yeah, it was an off-balance throw. Really did not have a lot on it, which certainly lessened the possibilities of him completing that double play. Probably didn't have a chance at it anyway. Nice play by Peralta, though, showing some athleticism. And there's kind of the off-balance throw. And you look at the runner, he's already 4 steps past the bag. So really a mistake there by Garcia to throw it. He should have seen that by then and just kind of held on to it. Again, you're committed in your mind to do it. Sometimes it's tough to stop, but it cost him there.
Here's Chris Owings. He's at shortstop tonight. Remember, they had Didi Gregorius. He was traded to the Yankees once Derek Jeter decided to hang him up, so they were looking for a young, athletic shortstop. They got that in Gregorius. Owings and Nick Ahmed have had a chance to play at short this year. And a foul ball. It's the first error by Greg Garcia this season. Two and one the count. Chacin is on deck, the pitcher. Diamondbacks making some moves today. Released the former Cardinal Gerald Laird. Chacin up from AAA. Zach Godley went from AA Mobile to AAA. And Danny Dorn was designated for assignment, so they had a lot of movement today. 3-2.
Well, your point with first base open and the pitcher up next, and it is just a 1-0 lead. It is early. You'd love to have Chacin lead off next inning. I like the idea of going right at that 8th place hitter. Not a big fan of intentional walks most of the time.
3-2.
You notice around the league, Dan, we're seeing less and less of them. And I'm wondering if there's some kind of sabermetric study that may be influencing managers not to do it. The numbers down now. Paul Goldschmidt leads the National League with 24 intentional walks, but nobody really close to him. I always had the feeling more base runners, more problems.
3-2 pitch, and he struck him out. Second strikeout in the game, 2 in the inning for Lance Lynn, and he gives up a home run. Wellington Castillo, number 17, solo shot, 1-0 D-backs. Lance Lynn leads it off here in the 3rd inning. Going back to what you're talking about before in terms of whether or not you walk the 8th place hitter, this becomes a potentially a much easier inning for Chacin, and Lynn could enjoy that as well coming up in the bottom half.
Well, there's the easy part, getting the pitcher out. Not 100% of the time, but certainly the odds are in your favor. And I was told a long time ago, actually by a high school coach, that when you get the leadoff batter in an inning, it feels like a half an inning. Now that coach was not a math teacher, so I get the math is wrong, but it does feel that way. It just kind of changes what the other team may do offensively in terms of running and hit and run and all that if you get that leadoff batter out.
Here's Carpenter. Strike 1. He flied to center to start the night. Diamondbacks 30-29 at home and 500 on the road. The Central Division of Major League Baseball and the National League, arguably right now the best in the game.
I'm not sure how you could argue against it. Depends, I guess, on how you define best, but you've got 3 of the top 4 teams in all of baseball in one division.
Have to get there first, but could you imagine a Cardinals and a Cubs series in postseason play? A strike to Carpenter.
Well, if you're looking for drama, here's what you want. You want the Cardinals and Cubs in a 7-game series. And then you want the Cardinals and the Kansas City Royals in a 7-game series.
Here's a 3-2. So right now Carpenter in another one of those ruts, 0 for his last 21. His longest 0 for streak was back in 2013. At one point he was 0 for 23. Three-two pitch. And a drive. Deep center field. Pollock is back. He'll look up, and it's gone. This game is tied, and a long home run off the bat of Matt Carpenter. That's how you snap the over. Home run number 19.
Talk about the deepest part of the ballpark. The guy I chatted most with about how the ball carries here in Arizona was Matt Carpenter, who gets his shower from Carlos Martinez. He has a way of driving a baseball, Dan, where it just gets a lot of lift and a lot of distance for a guy that you wouldn't think of as necessarily strong. But clearly he is, and has the bat speed to leave in the deepest part of the park.
Boy, that's the key. When you think about bat speed, his is tremendous. I think sometimes we overlook that. As Pham hits a fly ball into left, and Peralta is there. The ChooseNissan.com drive of the game off the bat of Matt Carpenter.
One of the things that scouts look at, Dan, even when they're scouting high school, college players, and it's such a hard thing to scout a baseball player because you don't know what their skills will do translating to the next level. But one of the things they do look for is bat speed. If you don't have bat speed, you might hit a high school pitcher throwing 70, but you're never going to catch up to 90, 95.
Oh, 0-1 the count on Johnny Peralta. Single to left, the first hit of the night. You know, Carpenter gets the cup of water thrown in his face.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen Piscotty is so businesslike. After his home runs, there's just a, you know, at the end, there's Martinez.
Yeah.
You don't throw it in his face. You hand it to him very gently.
And then he took his helmet off.
Yeah, very businesslike. Yeah. Yes.
Well, he's just there to serve any way he can. And
exactly.
Obviously, you have to know that, you know, your customers are different.
You have to. You got to be able to adapt. So Carpenter, he's ready for it right in the face. Piscotty, it's here you go. Very nice and gently handing you the cup of water.
So does he have that all memorized, or is that a list somewhere?
He's got it memorized.
Let's see. If Garcia hits a home run, what do I do? What do I do there? And do I have to inform him, because you know, obviously there's some choreography in it.
Right. I get a kick out of watching him.
Me too.
Brings energy to this club. 2-2 the count on Johnny Peralta. Little bit low. Full count with 2 outs and nobody on. Hit sharply to third. Taken there by Jake Lamb. Low throw. And picked by Goldschmidt. There's cameras out there inside the wall in center. Watch out. 1-1. Matt Carpenter with a home run, number 19. And he's driven in 65 this year to tie it up in 1. Here's Chacin, who looks at a ball low. We're underway here in the bottom of the third. Chacin, and then the top of the lineup. 2 balls and 1 strike. Broke his bat, and it's hit to Johnny Peralta. Puts him away for the out. So this is a very good offensive team, especially the last month or so, as they are starting to pile up the wins. Major League ranks what they've been able to do, and not mention in that graphic one of the most important stats that you can have, and that's runs per game. They are number 1 in the National League.
And number 2 in the National League. They're 6th overall in on-base percentage, 6th in MLB, but number 2 in the National League behind the San Francisco Giants. So as far as National League offenses, this is a well put together offense, because they can hit home runs, Dan. They can also manufacture runs with a stolen base.
Peralta can't get there on a base hit into center field. Inciarte is 1 for 2. He has 13 steals this year.
Dave McKay, by the way, former Cardinal coach, longtime Cardinal coach, is getting a lot of the credit here in Phoenix for helping this team steal bases more. They're really kind of taking to his suggestions and his coaching, and they are just loving to run, including Inciarte, who has 13 stolen bases.
Here's A.J. Pollock, and it's not just the steals, which shows up obviously when you look at the stat sheet, but they say going from first to third, or even trying to score from first, has improved dramatically.
And there is a metric to cover base running in total, including stolen bases and taking the extra base. And the Diamondbacks, as I mentioned earlier, they're number 1 in that particular metric.
Hit and run was on, and it's fouled back. It's all about just putting pressure on a defense, the opposing team, and you feel that right here, especially at the top of the lineup with this combination, and then when you have Goldschmidt come up too.
When teams run, it affects the pitcher, because you actually think twice about pitch selection. You may rush to the plate, and there are times where you will make mistakes because of the pressure of the running game.
1 ball, 2 strikes.
And you're talking about even defensive pressure beyond the pitcher. Infielders that are going to have to get to the ball quicker, and they're going to have to be more alert. And it's a hit and run, so do I vacate my spot here? I don't want to be late covering the bag if he swings and misses, but I also don't want to leave my territory. It just creates more pressure and more decisions for the defense.
The 1-2. Misses on the inside corner. You could see the reaction of Lynn. He wanted that call. Evens it up at 2-2. Five pitchers have made at least 10 starts for the Cardinals this year. All 5 an ERA that's under 3. Last time that happened, 1981. The Astros. That was a strike-shortened season. So the Cardinals pitching literally has been historic this year.
Night after night.
Runner goes, and a ground ball that's hit to short. Out at second, and they're able to turn the double play. Will this be reviewed? It might be. The grounds crew is out working on the field. Inciarte thought he was in there safely. To the naked eye, it looked like he was out, and the replay confirms that. So a double play, the first turn by the Cardinals this evening, and a very nice turn by Greg Garcia at second base. Top of 4 rolls in. Here's Jason Hayward in a 1-1 game. Diamondbacks shifting for Hayward. Fly to right his first time up. Outfield straight away and deep. Very nice turn by Greg Garcia on the double play moments ago.
Even happening, Dan, on a hit and run. So the Cardinals were, I guess, fortunate in some ways that first that Garcia did such a good job with it, but also that the ball was hit hard enough right at Peralta. And that's the third base coach, Andy Green, for the Diamondbacks, and he made some comments in the paper today about that particular play as Hayward is called out. And what Green came out in the paper talking about how second basemen are very vulnerable and why he likes the neighborhood play, and he doesn't really want to see that reviewed. And we looked at the high home view of it there, but you look at it more closely and look how vulnerable Garcia is to that slide. There's nothing wrong with that slide, but Green believes that some infielders are going to start getting hurt the more you start to scrutinize whether or not somebody's on the bag or not. And at this point, the neighborhood play is not reviewable, but his point is there's a lot of people talking about adding that, and he would not like to see that happen. He thinks that would create some potential injuries for middle infielders because they have to stay on the bag longer.
Yadier Molina grounded out to short first time up. 1 ball, 1 strike, 1 out, nobody on. I agree with that, but I think there needs to be, you can't have it one extreme or the other. There's got to be middle ground with that neighborhood play.
I mean, neighborhood, but not,
2 feet off the bag.
Area code.
Right. Nice play. To his left, Chris Owings, and he gets Yadier Molina. Cardinals and Papa John's teaming up to bring fans a pennant race deal that can't be beat. For a limited time, fans can purchase select stats and seats for just $7 to the National Series. That's August 31st through September 2nd. For details, visit Cardinals.com/Papa John's.
Dan, would you be happier if we called it the cul-de-sac play?
Absolutely.
Yeah, something in between.
Take your headset off. You're done for the end.
I'm just trying to make you happy.
The cul-de-sac play.
Just an idea.
It is. It's something.
It's an idea.
I can understand that, though, and we've seen it a lot where the middle infielders are left and they are exposed. And that was the idea. Neighborhood play was to get your second baseman a chance to get out of there a little bit, too.
Right. It's really the whole purpose of it.
2-1 the count on Stephen Piscotty. Doubled inside the third base line his first time up. And he chops that foul.
Dan, I think you already see that when infielders put tags down, they've had to kind of relearn that too. You don't see swipe tags anymore. And you see infielders, I mean, they're sticking their face right into the basically the sliding lower half of a player to make sure that that glove stays down and the tag is applied.
And a called third strike on Stephen Piscotty. 3 strikeouts tonight for Chacin. 2 in the inning. It's 1-1. Backs then at 7:30. Race to the finish as Goldschmidt skies one into left field. Hey, you don't want to miss that. That'll feature some of the best moments down the stretch of recent years. Cardinals Legends starting tomorrow night at 7 on Fox Sports Midwest.
Always nice to have Goldschmidt leading off an inning. Nobody on base. Swinging at the first pitch there. Got jammed a bit. His power is so good, he doesn't have to square it up to leave the ballpark. Dan, speaking of Legends, I hear the Legends camp in January has sold out. Both Camp 1 and Camp 2 have sold out in January, and that is just terrific news. We've got some new Cardinal players that'll be attending this year, and it's always a blast.
You'll be hearing a lot, too, about the 2006 World Championship team, the 10-year anniversary of that team, so they'll focus on that. Some of those guys will be there. There's a base hit into right.
Fantasy camp at Cardinals.com if you want to get on a waiting list for future camps.
A base hit for David Peralta, and it brings in Wellington Castillo. A solo home run that was into right center. His 17th this year to give the D-backs a 1-0 lead. Cardinals came back with a solo home run off the bat of Matt Carpenter. Peralta with 5 stolen bases this year. One thing about Lance Lynn, you don't really pay all that much attention to the pitch count. He's averaging just around 18 pitches per inning. That's the highest among any major league starter. And in his last start, he had 53 pitches that were called for balls. That was the most of any starter this year.
Also had a fair number of walks in that game, too. He walked 5, struck out 6. Only gave up a couple of runs against the Giants. I wouldn't say he was sharp, but still a good bounce back from that rough outing the time before. He's come to expect a good start from Lance Lynn.
Here's a 1-1. Broken bat and a base hit into left center field. Peralta rounding second, on his way to third. There's the aggressiveness of Arizona that we were talking about earlier.
And the key to this play is that the runner understands Peralta. Number one, you get the jump and then you go. He's jammed into left field. But Peralta is very aware as he's rounding second base, and this is where the aggressiveness comes in. Piscotty is not going to throw the ball to third. He's not. Because you throw the ball to third and you don't get him, now you've got runners at second and third, and the double play is not in order. So the aggressiveness has some other inputs into it, which is what is the defense going to do and how are they going to react.
Here's Lamb, and he lines that foul. Picked up a base hit, a hard hit ball off the glove of Carpenter. Back in the second inning. Cardinals have turned a double play tonight.
I believe I've seen that more this year just across the games that we've done, Dan. I mean, both teams, everybody collectively, where runners are hesitant to take the extra base when it does not call for the outfielder to even throw the ball there. Diamondbacks did it well there.
1 ball, 1 strike. Cardinals thinking the double play here with Lamb at the plate. They'll hold the runner at first, and Carpenter is back and not in at third. The 1-1. How about the Mets tonight? They went 16-7 over the Phillies. 8 home runs they hit. 14 extra base hits, most for them since 1999. David Wright returned and first at bat hit a home run. 2-1 the count. 3-1 the count.
It's an exaggeration, but felt like the Mets had about 8 home runs the first half of the season. Not a very good offensive team. They have gotten better kind of on their own, but certainly have some new pieces. And they are a tough team right now.
Their lead at 5.5 over Washington. 3-1 pitch, and the bases are loaded. First walk issued by Lynn. Don't miss the Cardinals Care 6K run on Sunday, September 13th. You'll be taken on a route through downtown St. Louis. Finish on the field at Busch Stadium. The run benefits area kids through Cardinals Care. Cardinals.com/6K to donate or to sign up and run. Here's Aaron Hill. Hit into a fielder's choice his first time up. Bases loaded. Only 1 out. There's the ground ball. Carpenter steps on the bag, and it's a double play. The second double play turned by the Cardinals tonight. Lynn gets out of the jam with a little help from Matt Carpenter and a heads-up play. Gets the ground ball at the bag at third and makes the throw. His reaction. This game stays tied. It's 1-1 as we head to the 5th. All right, good to hear from Jim Edmonds back in studio. It's been a while. There's Mark Reynolds, who struck out back in the 2nd inning. Cardinals have struck out 3 times tonight. The Pirates, they win their game 5-2 over Miami. They're now 27 games above 500 for the first time since 1992. With the Mets win tonight, they're 68-56. They have a better record than the LA Dodgers. As Reynolds smokes that into left field. Think about that. The Mets a better record than the Dodgers.
Well, the Dodgers better be careful, or they're going to have a lot of teams saying that. They are on a slide right now. Reynolds gets a pitch he can handle, drives it to left. Dodgers have lost 5 straight. And the Dodgers are 11 games under 500 on the road. That is too good a team to be 11 games under 500 on the road.
Here is Greg Garcia, grounded out to second, first time up. We have fans every night ask us about the injured Cardinals, and there's some good news with Matt Adams. As Garcia hits it sharply to Goldschmidt, and he throws it into left field. Just his 3rd error this year. Threw it wide, and everybody is safe.
Very good defender. We talked about how he does all the little things right. That is just error number 3, and trying to get that lead runner. He just threw it wide to the shortstop on the move. It's not an easy play to make. We saw the Cardinals mess that up a few days ago. But I also like the fundamental work of Peralta, the left fielder. I'm not sure backing it up is the right term, but he got to it quickly. There's the errant throw behind Owings, and right behind Owings is the left fielder Peralta charging the baseball to keep Reynolds from going to third. That's anticipation.
Lynn will square to bunt and then swing away. Strike one. Matt Adams, who's been working down in Florida since the weekend. The Cardinals have not announced when he'll be appearing in minor league games, but Mike Matheny said before the contest here in Arizona, September 1st is the date that they expect, more than likely, that he'll appear in some minor league games. So his return is not too far around the corner.
Very good news.
Been out since May 27th. We saw John Jay take BP here today too.
There's the bunt defense. When you think Tony La Russa, you think aggressiveness against the bunt.
Strike two on Lynn.
Really a hallmark of his years managing the Cardinals was getting that lead out at third base, and Lynn hasn't even offered to bunt the last couple of pitches. They had the wheel play on for the first pitch. Now they're waiting for the sign from the dugout on how to defend now that it's 0-2. My guess is he's bunting now.
And bunts it foul. Fourth strikeout for Chacin.
The aggressive bunt defense makes you think twice about bunting, and that's exactly what La Russa did to teams for years, and I think that's why Mike didn't have him bunt at those first two pitches. Didn't want him to bunt into a double play.
Now brings in Carpenter, who had a solo home run back in the third, measured at 432 feet. You see a hard hit ball or the home runs, you wonder about miles per hour off the bat. It was at 107 off the bat of Matt Carpenter, and you were talking earlier about hit speed and bat speed. So 2 on and 1 out. The 1-0. The count should be 1 ball, 1 strike, and now it is. Two balls, 1 strike on Carpenter, who has been one of the best with runners in scoring position this year for the Cardinals.
Off-speed pitch, looked like a changeup, may have been a slider that just had downward movement. Throws them both about the same miles per hour. You don't often get Matt Carpenter to chase at a pitch that far out of the zone.
The 2-2 spoiled by Carpenter. Inning started with a base hit to left by Reynolds. Greg Garcia bounced a ground ball to Goldschmidt. He committed his third error and what would have been a potential double play. Threw that into left field. Lynn the strikeout on a bunt attempt, and now a 2-2 pitch to Carpenter. Strikeout number 5. Labor Day, Monday, September 7th. Get the third bobblehead in the Announcer Series featuring Hall of Fame broadcaster Harry Carey. 25,000 fans ages 16 and older received the Harry Carey bobblehead with a voice chip of his epic call of Stan the Man's 3,000th hit. Courtesy of Maryville University. Tickets at cardinals.com/promotions. Here's Tommy Pham, 0 for 2. He's flied to center and also flied out to left. Pham, a little defensive swing and a fly ball into shallow right. Inciarte makes the catch. Cardinals strand 2. 1-1 midway through 5.
Go to the media in that town. We'll talk with Mike Matheny just like we do, and almost always they ask him the question, how is your ball club able to be in first place, so many wins, best record in baseball, with all the injuries that have mounted up throughout the season? And usually Mike gives the standard answer where he says, well, you know, sorry, we just play it one game at a time, and that's how we do it. Well, today he took a little different tact to that whole thing, and I think we got some insight into how he leads this ball club. And he almost talked in a football mentality about not allowing that outside distraction, not allowing any of that talk to get into that clubhouse, and that they were going to use that as motivation. If you tell us we can't do it, if we can't be in first place, that's just going to motivate us to be a team that's in first place and have the record that they have. I thought it was very insightful that he took a different tack than he has been doing all season with the visiting media.
Rick? Well, Mike certainly heard his words, and I think I understand Mike's kind of direction.
Foul territory and off the glove of Garcia.
I think you never want to tell your players that, oh no, everybody's hurt, let's quit and go home. I mean, that would be the kind of the absurd other end of the conversation. But I think when he kind of was talking to the media today, he was almost like he was talking to his players and not to the media. If you're talking to fans, I think the answer is this Cardinal team has done a great job of filling in, and you give credit to the guys that have done it. It's not really insulting to me, the veteran guys or the established guys that are hurt. And he just, I think Mike really believes 100% that the answers that he's giving at the press conferences are to his players. And they believe they're going to get messaging from that and read what he says, and he does not want to communicate to his players filling in that he doesn't believe in.
Third strikeout for Lance Lynn. Our DraftKings players to watch update. Trout, McCutchen, Pollock, and Kane, the highest OPS for center fielders in the game. On base plus slugging percentage, OPS. McCutchen went 2 for 5 tonight. Gregory Polanco, his teammate, 4 for 5 in a Pirates win.
So more specifically on Mike's comments, and I respect him tremendously as a manager, but I don't believe it's an insult to ask that question, because I think to believe that it's an insult is to say that Matt Holliday's not that important a player, and he is. Randall Grichuk's an important player. John Jay's an important player. Matt Adams is an important player, and to say that it doesn't matter that they're out, I mean, isn't, I think, fair to them. But I understand why he's saying it. So good to see John Jay swinging a bat today. And you and I have talked about him quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. I think he's just the kind of player that Cardinals have missed in this offense this season. He's the guy that kind of gets that hit in the middle, keeps things going.
Line drive into right center field. The pitcher, Chacin, with a single. 1 for 2 on the night. The Diamondbacks have to be thrilled with what they've gotten from him so far this evening.
Oh, there's no question.
Inciarte is 1 for 2.
Chacin started out with the Cleveland Indians in AAA this year, and I think he was just happy to have a job, frankly. Sure. And again, he's just 27.
That slap foul.
Watch out. So everybody's got their own little way of celebrating when a pitcher gets a hit. I'm not sure I can interpret that particular sign language.
1 out, runner at first, and an 0-1 pitch.
Are they driving a bus? What are they doing?
I don't know. Every team has got something
they
unique.
do.
Then you have Max Scherzer, who gets the chocolate after games. They dump that on him.
Yeah, that's a little much for me.
Remember a few years ago, the Dodgers decided to swim in the pool after clinching the West here in Arizona.
That was more than a little too much for me as a fan of baseball and as a fan of how you respect your opponent. That was so far over the line. I mean, I had no stomach for that. I understand they're kids, they want to have fun, but do it in your own pool. And hey, I had friends on that team, and I played for the Dodgers, loved the organization, but that was an embarrassment to me, honestly. That was an embarrassment to me as a former Dodger that they did that.
Cardinals wrapped up the Central Division last year, the final day of the season here in Arizona. And you may remember it was Adam Wainwright scheduled to start. He was in the bullpen getting loose. We had to wait and see if Pittsburgh would lose. They did. The Cardinals then wrapped it up. So they pulled Wainwright. Nick Greenwood made the start. Tommy Pham caught the final out, and the celebration was on in the Cardinals clubhouse. 1 ball and 2 strikes. And a ground ball that's hit to second. Garcia throws it into left field as he slipped. His second error tonight. Tried to plant. He slipped. And that should have been an inning-ending double play.
Definitely had speed in Inciarte, but no doubt you're going to get one at least, and you've got to make sure you get one. And that, unfortunately, could be a big play in this game because you get to the bad part of their order, too. That's the worst part of it.
And so you've got A.J. Pollock, one of the hottest hitters in all of baseball, up and a chance to do some damage. And then after that, it's Paul Goldschmidt. You saw the reaction of Lance Lynn. He was screaming out there, upset. Second error that's been committed behind him. As the Cardinals were trying to turn their third double play tonight. This is where, though, at times, especially a couple of months ago, he had back-to-back starts in the middle of games. One was a bases-loaded situation, nobody out. Then the next start, it was 2 on in second and third, 1 out, and got out of those jams.
That's your job right here. Pick up your defense. You're going to make mistakes, and so are you.
Pollock drops down a bunt. It's perfect. The base is loaded for Paul Goldschmidt. Uh-oh.
Well, the frustration level just tripled for Lance Lynn. The error first on the slip, the back foot of Garcia, over the head of Peralta. 2 runners aboard. Then the bunt single, Carpenter playing back. And all of a sudden, an inning that should be over is an inning that is far from over with Goldschmidt at the plate.
It's a tough night for Greg Garcia, the 2 errors, and don't forget he also had the drop of the pop-up in foul territory. He owns 3 grand slams. Nowhere to put him. Tonight he is grounded out and also flied out to left. 1 ball, 1 strike. Goldschmidt, first ever position player from Texas State University, and what a player he is. And the 1-1. Out of play. 1-2.
The more you hear about Paul Goldschmidt, the more you like him. Read today that he spent time a year ago finishing up his college degree, and he was taking online classes to finish up, and he was doing a lot of his work on the airplane, and just decided that, you know, I want to finish what I started. And you mentioned earlier he's learned how to run the bases better, just by sheer will.
2-2.
Danny's not fast. He's not fast at all. And he has 20 stolen bases.
Right.
Because he's learned the art of stealing bases.
Well, 2-2. One of the biggest pitches of the night right here. Can Lynn do what Rick was just saying? Pick up his defense. Pick up Garcia. The 2-2. Good pitch in on his hands. 2000 draft, 2009 draft Diamonds. No doubt. A.J. Pollock, first round. Goldschmidt, 8th round. The 2-2. 3-2. Lynn has walked a man. That was Jake Lamb back in the 4th. Bases loaded. 1 out. 3 balls, 2 strikes. And Lynn facing what very well could be the National League MVP. Here she comes. Ground ball. It's hit to short. Double play ball. The turn by Garcia. It's a double play. 3rd turn by the Cardinals tonight. Twice the Diamondbacks have had the bases loaded and 1 out. Twice they have not scored. That's now 3 double plays in 5 innings the Cardinals have turned. None bigger than this one.
This is a 3-2 pitch. Perfect pitch from Lynn down in the zone. Gets the ground ball to Peralta, and there's Garcia getting to be a part of that double play. And boy, he's got to breathe a lot easier after that particular play.
There's a look at our BJC Healthcare difference maker involving Lance Lynn. Most starts with 6 or more innings pitched. And basically that's telling you he pitches well. Also, as we talked about, does not get much run support. And that's the case here tonight. 1-1 game in the top of the 6th. So the Cardinals have turned the 3 double plays to end the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th. Arizona with the bases loaded, 1 out. Aaron Hill hit into a 5-3 double play. And moments ago, bases loaded, 1 out, 6-4-3.
So the frustration level I talked about building with Lance Lynn now is building with the Arizona Diamondbacks, because they're not capitalizing on those opportunities. You know, we say it a lot, Dan, but I'm not even sure we can say it enough. How frustrating this game can be, because it looks easy and it's not. And there's so much failure in it. There's so many mistakes. There's so many almosts. Hayward almost hits a home run early on. The Diamondbacks almost get a couple of runs in this game, and except for the double plays. Lynn's almost out of the inning, but then he has to react to it.
So the margin of error.
Oh,
tight.
It's painfully frustrating at times. I get it. They're paid a lot of money. They're playing on TV. They're, I get it. And yes, it's a great job to have. I'm not saying that, but the performance of the job itself, you have to be able to manage your frustration, or you can't play it.
3-2. Taken low. First walk issued by Chacin. Our What's on Tap is presented by Budweiser. All the games on this road trip, by the way, are on Fox Sports Midwest. It'll be Garcia and Corbin. We'll come your way tomorrow at 8. Remember, we have those specialty shows involving the Cardinals and comeback wins and championship teams tomorrow before the pregame show at 8. Garcia, 5-4. There's Jason Hayward. 0 for 2 tonight. Flied out to right and also struck out. Ground ball backhanded by Goldschmidt. Little hesitation, and Hayward is safe at first. That goes 3-5 on the force out. So you have Jake Lamb, your third baseman, turning the double play with the shift. Looked like he had a little issue with it in the glove, and that little issue, that slight margin of error, as you talked about, allows Hayward to stay at first base.
Yeah, that was a play of almost. I mean, Jason Hayward almost drove a ball into right field. He hit the ball hard. A couple feet to the left, he's got a base hit. Runners at first and third. That almost didn't work. Then Goldschmidt gets the runner at second base, but because of that hesitation, the Diamondbacks aren't able to get that double play.
And here is Yadier Molina. Molina, by the way, has been the battery mate for Lance Lynn in 22 of his 24 starts this year, and 89 of his 121 in the major leagues. Say what you will about stuff and power pitching, but to have this guy behind the plate majority of your starts, it certainly helps.
No question about that. Not just helping you call the game, and I say that very specifically, helping you call the game, because it's still the pitcher's responsibility, but it's controlling the running game as he does.
Off the glove of the shortstop Owings and into left field. Bobbled, and Hayward on his way to third, diving in head first and safe. The little margin of error, and there's an error on David Peralta, his first of the season.
And before that, almost caught by the shortstop.
And almost a double play, and you're heading to the bottom half of this inning.
He takes a step to his left and was frozen for a second, and then just misses getting the ball. There's the bobble, and Hayward very alertly sees the bobble. He's got his head up. He knows what's going on. He anticipates again. Game is about anticipation as well, and he makes it to third base. That's a nice job of base running by Hayward, and now we have 4 errors in this game.
And here is Piscotty, who was hit in 22 of the games that he's played in this year, this being number 31. He doubled down the left field line, struck out looking at a curveball back in the fourth. Runners at the corners.
Greg Garcia, Paul Goldschmidt, and David Peralta came into this game with a combined total of 2 errors. And between the 3 of them, they have 4 tonight.
The 2 of the 3 that you just mentioned had not committed an error this year. Here's a 1-0. Have you seen a pattern at all with how pitchers are going at Stephen Piscotty?
Well, you see him trying to get him out with breaking balls. I think they're certainly testing to see whether he'll chase off the outside corner. I think you're always going to check out a young player with that and just see how good his plate discipline is. And if he keeps kind of laying off that pitch and making him come over the plate, he's going to do some damage. And pitchers are sneaky that way. They want to see just how far you'll go off the plate. Now he pounds him inside. You have to use both parts. But I guess he really wants to get him out away more than in.
And I thought in San Diego that's how they did it. Now it's not like we're, recreating the wheel here. It's pitching him in with fastballs,
right,
breaking balls away to see if he'll chase.
Exactly right.
Last pitch in. This pitch they set up outside, and Piscotty taps it foul.
And just think, Dan, about what it takes for a hitter to hit a fastball in, a good fastball. You've got to get the bat moving quicker to get the bat more out in front of you to square up that pitch if it's inside. You can just drop the bat head on a fastball away. So the fastball in is harder to catch up to. And so you're kind of geared for that. But if you get out in front, the slider away, you're too far out in front and you may wave at it.
The 2-2. Piscotty pulls it foul. That's why you take that lead for our young fans that play the game. Runner at third, you are in foul territory.
Yeah, you take the lead in foul territory and you also pay attention.
Get those happy feet down there, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to take that lead, but you also have to be agile.
Now, this is Jason Hayward, by the way, with a sore leg that beats out the double play, and with the sore leg advancing on the bobble by Peralta. Been watching him on some of his routes to the ball, and those have been fine, but you can see the leg is still bothering just a bit. The 2-2. Chop towards third. Can they turn two? He is safe. And a run scores to make it 2-1 St. Louis. Lamb, he wanted to come home, at least initially, for a split second, and that may have cost him on the double play.
Saw it exactly the same way you did. Lamb's indecision made this a closer play at first base than it needed to be. And there may be a discussion about whether or not he's actually safe or not. To the naked eye, I thought he was. But that split second where he looked home, and he's got to know, ball hit to me, I'm going second to first. Got to try for the double play. And here's the end of it. And he's safe.
Yes.
But the hesitation by Lamb, another almost that leads to a Cardinal lead.
So Stephen Piscotty makes it a 2-1 St. Louis lead as time is called by Castillo. That slight hesitation, that was the difference in maybe a half a foot for Stephen Piscotty to be safe.
That's all he needed.
Piscotty with one steal this year. And now it's Reynolds, who does have a hit. He's 1 for 2.
You know, the other thing that's a part of that play, Dan, is when a hitter is jammed, an infielder knows he's not going to get out of the box very quickly. So he had to be thinking double play is possible.
As a fielder, you think about the countless scenarios too. Before the pitch is thrown, what am I doing? Slow hit ball. Who's the runner? Do I go home? Do I go to second? Double plays or lack thereof. One of the storylines in this game.
Absolutely.
0-2 on Reynolds. Piscotty is running. And that pitch lifted in the air into right center field. A.J. Pollock is there. The Cardinals turn a key double play to end the fifth. Bases loaded, one out. Goldschmidt at the plate. 6-4-3, third double play they turn. Watch the slight hesitation. Do I go home? Nope. Goes to second. Piscotty beats it out. It adds up to a 2-1 St. Louis lead. Fourth, Cardinals and Pirates. Big series coming up at Busch Stadium. Here's David Peralta, who is 1 for 2. Peralta, key error in that inning as well.
Yeah, one of the other things we should bring up about that inning is it really should be, I think it's incorrectly being labeled as an earned run, but it's really an unearned run. Hayward shouldn't have been on third in the first place.
Garcia almost made that great play. Peralta hits from the left side. That helps him get that extra step and beats it out.
Did you say almost again?
I did. It's been a game of almost the entire night. Now, will the Cardinals ask for this to be challenged? They might.
Nice play by Garcia. Good strong throw.
Clearly safe. So an infield hit. Peralta with 5 stolen bases this year. He's 2 for 3. Here's Castillo as a solo home run and also a single.
I love your comment earlier, Dan, about all the thought process that's going on in the mind of an infielder every single pitch right now. So think about Garcia. Ball to my right, I may shovel pass to Peralta. Ball hit to the left side, I got to cover the bag. Ball hit to my left, I'm going to have to make the decision about whether to get the lead runner. He's fast. The guy at the plate isn't. I better be sure I can get that lead runner at second. And the thought you don't want in your head is, oh, by the way, I've dropped the ball 3 times today.
Right.
Because there's enough to think about.
The great players in this game somehow, some way, were able to turn the page more times than not. Do you agree with that? I mean, the margin, and we're talking about little things, you know, the margin of error, the margin of the difference of great players. All these guys are the best in the world at what they do, but between the years, some are exceptional.
Yeah, check out the number of times that Hank Aaron struck out, or Babe Ruth struck out, or I mean, Ozzie Smith made an error once. I never saw it, but I heard he did. And as Jose Oquendo loves to teach infielders about the idea of making errors and what's the toughest play to make, and he quizzes them on that. The answer he always wants to get is the toughest play to make is the play after you've made an error.
2-1. Can they turn another double play? Yes, they can. Nice turn by Garcia. That's 4 turned by the Cardinals tonight. Castillo grounds to Carpenter. The low throw to Garcia. He was taken out hard at second base. Clean baseball. And the 4th double play turned by the Cardinals.
Well, this is the way you build on the mental part of the game, as you remember the 3 double plays you were a part of. 4th one he wasn't involved in. It was Carpenter unassisted, which was a terrific play to end the 4th inning. But if you're Garcia, you try to focus on what you did well, not what you didn't do well, and just kind of move forward. Again, not an easy thing to do, but the best players, Dan, do it.
Lance Lynn working on 5 days rest. So that's the case here tonight. And he's had 9 starts with 5 or more days rest. When that happens, 6-2 with an ERA of 1.24.
Likes being strong. That's what that tells me.
Opponents hitting just .213 against him. Here's a 1-1 pitch.
And with a guy that throws a lot of fastballs, that makes sense to me.
Exactly.
And it's not just velocity, Dan, it's life. That extra day is going to give you more life.
It's the 3rd time the Cardinals have had a game in which they've turned 4 double plays. So the infield for the Cardinals has been busy here tonight. And a 3-1 pitch to Jake Lamb. Taken just a bit high as Lynn stares back into the home plate umpire. He has 2 walks. Both have been to Lamb, and it brings in Aaron Hill.
Lance was right on that one. It did catch the top part of the strike zone on the inner half. Not a great pitch, but it was a strike.
Hill is 0 for 2. Lamb has 3 steals this year. Everything in baseball just about wrapped up. The exception of this ball game and Oakland leading Seattle 7-5. That's in the 5th.
So more on the thought process of Greg Garcia. Johnny Peralta is playing Hill in the hole. That means he's probably going to have to cover second base. So he's thinking about his responsibility there. There's Peralta deep in the hole. I wouldn't think Arizona would run here, but you can't assume that defensively. You have to expect it anyway.
I've seen a couple of times in this frame where Lance Lynn is spinning off the mound and just does not look comfortable. Molina saw that after that previous pitch. I'm sure it's a conversation not only about that, but also to settle him down a little bit. He's frustrated with the strike zone. Now we have a tight game here in the 6th. If you get to the 8th after the 9th inning, in which Kevin Siegrist was used yesterday, you wonder if he's available to pitch tonight. Nearly 30 pitches yesterday for Siegrist.
Only went 2/3 of an inning, but just had a tough time. Gave up 3 hits, a lot of deep counts. My guess they would like to, my guess is they'd like to stay away from him.
2-1 lifted in the air into left center field. Pham won't get it. All the way to the wall. And Jake Lamb will score. This ties the game at 2. The RBI for Aaron Hill is 32nd. So the walk comes around to score. We have a tie game at 2-2.
A pitch that was almost a strike turns into a walk, and an inning that was almost over isn't. As Hill plugs the gap.
Jared Saltalamacchia has moved to the on-deck circle. He would pinch hit for Chacin if Owings can reach. Bunted in the air. Molina is there. Makes the catch. Rick was really excited about that play from Chris Owings with the go-ahead run at second base, and to see him bunt. I've never seen you as animated as you were there between innings.
Throwing stuff in the booth?
You were.
I mean, Dan, that's such bad baseball I can't even tell you. So any young person that's watching the game, and you've got a guy on second base in the bottom of the 6th inning that represents the go-ahead run, and there's 2 outs, you don't bunt. Never. Not maybe, not sometimes, never.
Garcia with a base hit into center field. So what it did is that he's out. Saltalamacchia back to the dugout. Chacin pitches this inning. So he stays in, and he's pitching into the 7th. This is the Gateway Honda home run inning. If a Cardinals player hits a home run, the Gateway Honda dealers donate $1,000 to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So this is Peter Borges, who will pinch hit, and he'll be asked to bunt more than likely, as Peter is 0 for his last 20.
I amend my statement. If Babe Ruth is on deck, you can bunt.
Okay.
Or Stan Musial.
I got it.
I'm still mad about it.
Play. I got it.
I'm still mad about it.
Well, Borges, you would have to think, Rick, is here to sacrifice. As I mentioned, he's struggling swinging the bat. As a pinch hitter this year, he's 1 for 20.
He's done a nice job of bunting the last couple of weeks. He's done it 2 or 3 different times, and actually he's done it very well. So the other thing about Borges, when he bunts, it's kind of a threat anyway because he runs so well. I'm sure that conversation on the mound was more not just about how to pitch Borges, but how to kind of defend it.
Well, and here's the other thing. If he's there to bunt, I'm sure some fans at home are saying, well, why not just let the pitcher do that? Why not just let Lance Lynn bunt and keep Borges still alive.
Bunting is harder than you think, and a hitter's going to be better at it.
Drops down a beauty. He may beat it out. And look at this. Garcia on his way to third. He's in there safely. Heads up play, Greg Garcia. And time is called, and he is hurt.
Oh, he was landed on awkwardly by Castillo, and you could tell right away that he was in some pain. And I don't know if it's his shoulder or his hand, but on that slide, very alert play and a thought-through play for the Cardinals to think about a bunt where Garcia could go all the way from first to third. He may have jammed his thumb. Again, just guessing here, but we'll look at Garcia smartly reading nobody's at third, and Castillo dives in there lately, and he dives right on top of his hand.
What a heads-up play this is. Greg Garcia.
They also hit heads, too.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure that's where the real pain was, but the kind of the heads collide.
By the way, if Castillo catches that ball, he's out. The tag would have been there. Another close play and that slight margin of error we've been talking about the entire game. Well, with that, it'll bring in Matt Carpenter with a runner at third and only one out.
Well, we looked at it in slow motion. How about normal speed again? Just how violent that collision was.
Andrew Chafin is the new pitcher. Chevy called to the pen. He's had 19 scoreless appearances, 20 in the third innings since July 10th. It's tied for the club record by a rookie with Joe Patterson, set back in 2011.
One of two lefties they have in their bullpen. Key situation here with the runner at third.
Infield drawn in. First pitch is a ball. Carpenter snapped an 0 for 21 with a solo home run. Measured at 432 feet, his 19th back in the third. He is flied to center and also struck out. A 2-2 game and a 1-0 pitch. 1 ball, 1 strike. And the 1-1. 1 ball, 2 strikes on Matt Carpenter.
Second time we've seen Matt chase way out of the zone tonight. Doesn't happen very often. This would be a big pickup here with the infield in against Carpenter. Doesn't read that it's a slider. Never was a strike and just kept going down. Way off the plate. You mentioned, Dan, this lefty's been good from Kent State. Texas State, Stony Brook, Kent State.
They will find you.
They'll find you.
1-2 pitch. Carpenter doesn't chase. Nice play by Castillo to keep that in front. Let's go back to that play at third with Greg Garcia.
I think you're right. He would have been out. He catches the ball there. He tags the right hand, maybe the thumb, maybe the pointer finger.
Looked like the thumb may have been caught in the mitt of Castillo. I don't know if you saw that, but maybe. We'll find out more tomorrow or after the game tonight. But good to see him that he's back in there and still playing.
He's in there running.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he's going to be in there throwing and playing defense.
We have both remarked that we think his baseball instincts in terms of how he runs the bases, in talking about Greg Garcia, have been very good with what we've seen, a small sample size.
No question about that. You got to be daring and confident.
Big pitch here on 3-2. 1 out. Here she comes. Carpenter draws the walk.
It's a good at bat. He chased once, but he didn't give in.
Center fielder Tommy Pham. Hyundai pitch arsenal for the left-hander, and now Chip Hale is moving towards the home plate umpire, so you may see a double switch here.
That's what he did throw, but he's not going to throw anymore.
Tommy Pham with runners at first and third when we come back. Pham, he goes to the 8th spot in the lineup for Arizona. Nick Ahmed is the new shortstop, and this is our Chevy call to the pen.
Yeah, Hudson has been really a reliable reliever for the Diamondbacks. He's become their 8th inning guy. He's kind of the bridge to get to Brad Ziegler, the closer, who has 23 saves. Both he and Ziegler can go more than an inning, so it's not really 8th and 9th. It's the last 2 guys. There's a look at Ahmed. He will now bat in the 9th spot, so he'll lead off in the home half of the 7th.
Runners at first and third. First pitch to Tommy Pham. Something to think about with Pham, who is 0 for 3 tonight. Now he's had 3 balls that he's hit into the outfield. So you've gotten the fly ball, but we haven't seen the Cardinals squeeze all that much.
No, we haven't.
And with his speed, that's something to think about. Garcia's speed. Runner at first is Carpenter. And the 0-1 pitch. Base hit into right. Tommy Pham comes through. And the Cardinals go back on top. 3-2 St. Louis. Tommy Pham with RBI number 5.
Well, Garcia hustled all the way to third, so a short run for him on that base hit the other way for Tommy Pham. Good at bat. Pham had 3 hits on Saturday, and he has been contributing. Maybe not to the level of Grichuk and Piscotty, but he has been contributing.
So runners at first and second. Now Johnny Peralta. That run is charged to Chacin, who started the inning, so he goes 6 1/3. Closed the book on him. 3 runs. He struck out 5 and walked 1. Gave up a home run to Carpenter. Peralta 1 for 2 with a single to left. And he walked in his previous at bat. 1 ball, 1 strike.
And as we thought, they did change one of the runs that Chacin gave up from a earned run to an unearned run, and that really only matters to Chacin, his family, and his agent.
Especially the last one. Here's a 1-1 pitch. Instead, a check on Carpenter at second base.
I bet the pitching coach cares.
Could affect his bottom line. A few years ago, I remember that with Dave Duncan. Final game of the season, the Cardinals going for an ERA title. And there may or may not have been a phone call up to the press box for a potential change. I can either confirm or deny that took place.
You're saying that in such a cloudy yet enticing way.
A pickoff and back in safely, Pham. 2 balls, 1 strike. Again, I can't confirm or deny.
But you can raise suspicion.
Yes.
Which I believe you just did.
Or you can just take my tone and kind of figure it out on your own.
Oh, I'm used to that. Trust me.
Here's a 2-1 pitch to Johnny Peralta. It's hard to believe the season is winding down. Game number 124 here tonight. Cardinals will finish up the road trip in San Francisco over the weekend, then back home. Very important homestand coming up. Washington, Pittsburgh, Chicago.
Starting today, 6 weeks of baseball left.
Regular season.
Regular season. 6 more weeks of the marathon, then the sprint starts.
Then I try to figure out what I'm going to do in the winter. Chasing 4 kids, but after about 2 days, season's over. I start to miss it big time.
Then you start counting the days to spring training.
Exactly. The 2-2 instead of check on the runner.
Now we're really ahead of ourselves. Talking about next spring training.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball has its cycles, though, doesn't it?
Two balls, 2 strikes, 1 out, 2 on. 3-2 Cardinals. Strikeout of Peralta.
Good location here away from Peralta. He just not able to catch up with it. Hudson, a former starter for Arizona. In fact, in 2011, he won 16 games in the rotation, 33 starts, threw over 200 innings.
They do have another left-hander in their pen. That's Matt Reynolds. Sticking, though, with Hudson here. Fastball at 98. Makes me think that if he's been a starter, but he's throwing 98, which we've seen with others. Wade Davis comes to mind with Kansas City. They get a chance to work out of the pen. Arm strength is not a concern. And it builds arm strength, and they just let it fly. There's nothing left in the tank. Just let it fly. That pitch at 97.
Sometimes post-injury, you're forced to be a reliever because they don't want to really overexpose you. And you go out there in the bullpen, you find you like it, and you find that hitters don't like you being out there in the bullpen, and then your team comes to like it and sees you maybe in a different light.
The 2-1. Hayward just missed a home run his first time up. See if he can square one up. The 3-1. That pitch taken inside, so the base is loaded with 2 outs. And Yadier Molina will be the hitter.
This has been a good game, close game, a lot of key moments already. One of the key moments to me, if not the most important moment of this game so far, was the 3-2 pitch to Paul Goldschmidt from Lance Lynn to end the 5th inning. A double play. 6-4-3 with maybe the National League's best hitter at the plate.
Molina has singled tonight. He's also grounded out. 1 for 3. Ball 1. The chant of "Let's go Cardinals." Into right field, base hit off the bat of Molina. One run is in. Here comes another. The tag, no! Pham avoids the tag. 2-run score. Molina delivers with 2 outs and the bases loaded. How did Tommy Pham avoid that tag?
We've seen this so often from Yachty. The base hit the other way, key hit in the game. There is Pham touching the back part of the plate. 2 RBIs. Now 51 on the season for Yachty. And that's a big moment. The throw is slightly up the line, and Pham decides at that point, slide's not the right idea. I'm just going to run right through the plate. And he did that going full speed.
A 5-2 St. Louis lead here in the top of the 7th as Molina delivers, and now it's Stephen Piscotty. As an RBI and a double tonight. 5-2 Cardinals. Runners at first and second. Good cut. Fouled it back. You're talking about the double play. Certainly a huge story in this game thus far. But maybe the play of the night, Greg Garcia on a sacrifice, advancing from first to third with the bunt. And that's hit out of play.
That certainly helped the Cardinals in this inning. A lot like how Jason Hayward going from first to third on the error by Peralta helped the Redbirds in the 6th inning. They don't score in that inning if Hayward's not alert.
Now Cole Mentor is throwing in the pen. 0-2 the count on Piscotty. And he strikes out. But the Cardinals pick up 3. Time to stretch. One of the big plays tonight, Greg Garcia in pain. Was it all worth it? You bet it was. 5-2 St. Louis. Cardinals with 8 hits, Arizona with 9. Lance Lynn 6 innings tonight. 9 hits, couple of earned. 2 walks and 3 strikeouts. Molina, the big hit moments ago. Chacin pitched into the 7th, and Castillo home run 2 for 3. Our Chevy called to the pen takes us to right-hander Jonathan Broxton.
Be interesting how the Cardinals use their bullpen 7, 8, and 9. A lot of them are well rested, some are not. Pete Kozma takes over for Greg Garcia, so Garcia able to run, but perhaps has some issues with throwing the baseball, so Kozma will replace him and play second.
Nick Ahmed, part of the double switch. He's in the 9th spot in the lineup. This will be interesting. We've talked about it, that at times Broxton has had issues in back-to-back games. Pitched yesterday. We'll see how he fares here in the bottom of the 7th with a 3-run lead. 2 balls, no strikes.
As crazy as it sounds, there's a difference between 2 games in a row when they're both night games and a night game following a day game. There's just a little extra rest involved, and sometimes that's all the difference.
Base hit into left. Nick Ahmed.
Chafin, by the way, is going to have to start a new streak. He'd had 19 straight without giving up a run. He walked Carpenter. That was a key part of that 3-run Cardinals 7th inning. And this is how the bottom of the 7th starts. Pitch down in the zone, and Ahmed a base run.
Inciarte reached on an error. Back in the 5th.
Trivia question for you, Dan. Who came in 5th place last year in the National League Rookie of the Year balloting?
Ender Inciarte.
No, you're supposed to say who is Ender Inciarte.
Well, this isn't Jeopardy.
Oh, well,
you said it was trivia.
Well, how do you know? My rules.
Good point.
And you're correct.
Thank you. He is from Venezuela. At one point last year, the Diamondbacks had 5 players from Venezuela on their roster. That was in June of last year. Ouch. And we mentioned earlier, Rick, we were talking about how if you can play this game, they'll find you. And this really has become a world game. When you think, think about Ichiro and Gung and the players from the Dominican and Venezuela and Mexico and the United States, even some from Canada. It's a world game.
It's so, you can't really turn back the clock and change things how they were years ago. But, I mean, you can rightly say it's a World Series now when you've got the best players in the world, and you're in the best league, the best players. All the players throughout the world are trying to get here that play in other countries. They understand this is the Premier League in baseball, and clearly there are no barriers to playing Major League Baseball as there were years ago. Racial barriers, foreign domestic barriers. This is truly a world game now.
And what's changing the game now, players from Cuba. Guys that defect. Obviously, a rich talent of players in Cuba. And more we're seeing Cuban players that are defecting and wind up in Major League Baseball. And you were telling me Aledmys Diaz, the shortstop that defected from Cuba, the Cardinals assigned him a couple of years ago. He has gotten on fire, by the way. I was looking at his numbers, but they have promoted him to AAA.
Got promoted today, yeah. So good for him, and maybe he's a guy we may see in September.
1 ball, 1 strike. That decision would have been easier for the Cardinals this time last year because he was still on the 40-man roster. The Cardinals had to make some moves earlier this year. They actually took Diaz off the 40-man roster. It was a risk, and they felt that he would still be with the organization because of the amount of money that's owed to him the next couple of years. They signed him to 4 years and I believe $16 million. So you leave him exposed, but then a team picks him up and then they pick up the responsibility of the contract. It was a risk, but the move that did pay off.
That's a reasonable risk, though, when you look at the money involved with an unproven minor league player. And I think it's good Cardinals to have that continued depth at the shortstop position.
The Cardinals have turned 4 double plays tonight. Broxton and St. Louis with love number 5. Inciarte can run, though. It'd be tough. It'd have to be a hard hit ball. That's out of play. Two balls and 2 strikes. Ahmed is leaning at first, not running. And the pitch is lifted in the air. Left field. Catch made by Piscotty. Our T-Mobile photo of the night. Hashtag MW Data Strong Fan. That's presented by T-Mobile. Lovely couple on a beautiful night in St. Louis. You know, Jim Hayes made one of those T-Mobile shots. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see that.
It's great to see. Jim, a man of the people. There's no question about that.
He's a photo bomber from way back. He was doing that before it was kind of the in thing to do.
You see how many photos he takes?
I think he was taking selfies before we even had selfies.
I'm assuming he has a selfie stick. Who doesn't? Arcia in the driver's seat, A.J. Pollock, who's been one of the hottest hitters in Major League Baseball. Also possesses good speed, 33 stolen bases. He's only been caught 6 times. He's at the plate here. And it's Arcia in the driver's seat. Billy Hamilton, 54 steals. D. Gordon, 41. Then Pollock and Charlie Blackmon. Starling Marte with 25.
Reds are the only team in the National League with more stolen bases than Arizona, and Billy Hamilton has most of those.
2-0 pitch is a fly ball lifted into deep center field. Pham back with room, makes the catch on the track.
Boy, you hold your breath when you get to this part of the lineup. Pollock and Paul Goldschmidt. The last time we saw Goldschmidt, we're going to call that our key play of the game. It's a ground ball double play, 6-4-3. Garcia gets to be a part of a positive moment defensively after struggling early on. But Lance Lynn coming up with that pitch, Dan, 3-2 against the best hitter and one of the hottest hitters in the game in Goldschmidt.
Should Nick Ahmed be at second base? Deep fly to center there. Home ballpark, you read it, you say, okay, it's going to stay in the ballpark, not go off the wall, go back and tag up.
I hadn't thought about it at the time.
Just something to think about.
You better not make it out in front of Paul Goldschmidt. That's the other side of it. You better be safe. Goldschmidt, another example of a player who has a unique style of batting. If a scout were to see this, they'd say, you know, I don't really like that. I don't really like what you do with your bat behind your back. But it really doesn't matter where your bat is at the time. It's just kind of his ready position. When Broxton starts to deliver the ball to the plate, his hands are going to be in the right spot. That's not the right spot right now, but now it is.
You think about Colton Long when he hits.
Yeah.
Where his hands are, and then eventually he uses that as a trigger to get him back and then through the zone.
Some guys have the upright bat. Others have a flat bat. You think of Randall Grichuk, who likes to hold it flat.
A 2-1 pitch to Goldschmidt. Cardinals with a 3-run lead, and Matt Carpenter is on the line. 3-1 the count. David Peralta, 13 home runs, stands on deck. So the tying run will come to the plate. Third walk that the Diamondbacks have received.
You wonder if Randy Choate have been more effective recently, or if Kevin Segrist did not pitch in yesterday's game and throw 30+ pitches, whether or not you'd have Broxton facing a left-hander here, who represents the tying run at the plate and has good power.
I think without question that gives you your answer. Broxton stepping off the pitching rubber. And now he wants to talk it over with Molina. Pete Kozma also coming in with a left-handed batter. He wants to know what's the pitch. As Cishek begins to throw, and we talked about it yesterday. As time moves forward, it looks like Steve Cishek is getting more comfortable.
Yes.
And is throwing a lot better.
Yeah, I think he's rounding out to potentially be that 8th inning pitcher for the Cardinals. Broxton 7, and you can also say Kevin Segrist is an 8th inning guy too. Nice to have 2 of them.
Most RBIs with 2 outs this year. Arizona at 219, just trailing Pittsburgh. The 1-1. That's a good pitch. Can he put him away now with 2 strikes? Here's a 1-2 pitch to David Peralta. Off the glove of Broxton, backhanded by Kozma, flips to second, and everybody is safe. So an infield hit, and it brings in Wellington Castillo with the bases loaded. Nice play by Pete to get to that ball. That saved a run from scoring.
Well, he keeps it in the infield and almost gets more than that, but he had just one choice. Peralta runs well. You're not going to get him at first base, so it's got to be a backhand flip with the glove. Just didn't come out of his glove the right way. We'll look at it again. Here's the ground ball, slowed down perhaps by Broxton. Backhand, and just a little bit wide of Peralta. They're calling that an E4.
How can that be an error? Can't. I'm keeping it as a base hit. Wellington Castillo. That's not an error. All right, you were fired up 2 innings ago. Now I'm fired up. That's not an error. Here's a 1-0 pitch.
Whoa. That almost got past Molina. He just barely got a piece of that ball. Right into the dirt on the backhand. Yachty's expecting that ball in the inner half too.
The 2-0 Castillo. Went with an off-speed pitch. 2-1. Jonathan now at 23 pitches. I can relax now. They've just changed that to a base hit. The 2-1.
Now see, that's not fair. You get to relax, but I don't get to have Owings go back up there and swing the bat instead of bunting with 2 outs and a man on second base in a tie game. So I'm going to continue to be aggravated, and you're fine.
The picture of serenity right now. Jonathan Broxton is not.
No, I was going to say the same thing. He's got to make a pitch here. We've had a lot of important moments in this game, Dan. Game feels closer than 5-2, doesn't it?
It does. And a fly ball lifted out to right. Hayward. He's there. Broxton, a scoreless bottom of the 7th. The Diamondbacks again strand the bases loaded. Studio and a Bomberito Sports Update with the great Jim Hayes. All right, thank you, Jimmy. This is our Chevy call to the pen. New battery now for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Josh Colmenter is into the game. 31st appearance. Jared Saltalamacchia is your new catcher. And the first pitch to Mark Reynolds is taken for a strike. Saltalamacchia signed that 3-year deal after being a member of the Boston Red Sox, went to Miami, and then he comes over to Arizona. One ball, one strike on Mark Reynolds, who is 1 for 3 tonight. Had the chance to visit with Randal Grichuk the other day, and said he's doing great with his rehab and coming back very nicely. Never misses a game back home watching on television. And soon enough, we'll see Randal back in this Cardinals lineup. When you think about Grichuk, there's no doubt he would have been in that conversation and still is for Rookie of the Year. So he comes back, put him in the lineup, goes on a tear in September. He may be your Rookie of the Year.
Still could happen.
Reynolds got a piece, and it's 2 balls and 2 strikes. Brandon Moss is moved to the on-deck circle. He'll bat for Broxton, and then we'll see Pete Kozma. The 2-2. The 3-2 hit out of play. This has been a breakout season for Randal Grichuk, Stephen Piscotty. Those two have had great starts to their big league careers. All the injuries the Cardinals have had, they needed others to step up, and those two have come through in a big way. 3-2 pitch. Reynolds with a high fly ball into center field. One away.
Think of that old saying, necessity is the mother of invention. I think the Cardinals having to go to Piscotty maybe a little quicker than they had wanted to because of injuries has created a very good situation potentially with some of the guys coming back, where you've made your bench deeper. You've just made your offense more powerful because you've had to get some experience for guys that you hadn't planned on doing.
Segrist getting loose in the pen. This will be interesting tonight to see his effectiveness after the workload that he's had this year, and then what he had to do yesterday as Moss takes a ball. 2 balls and no strikes.
It was just 2/3 of an inning. It was just a long 2/3 of an inning.
Three and 0. See the Cardinals turn him loose and try to get him going on 3-0. Instead, it's a walk. Despite the fact he has not hit well since coming to St. Louis. One thing Brandon Moss has done, he's drawn walks, he's gotten on base.
Second baseman, Pete Kozma.
Cardinals have received 4 walks in the last 3 innings alone. And here is Pete Kozma.
I still think Moss kind of comes under the category of a guy that's a threat. I mean, he's hit 15 home runs this year, so you think about what he could be as a potential off the bench pinch hitter guy that, late in the game you bring in a lefty against a right-handed pitcher that, it's going to scare the other team. I'm not saying it's potential that's been realized as a Cardinal. Clearly it hasn't, but can see down the road he could be a good weapon off the bench for Mike Matheny.
Another check on Moss.
Checking on the usage of Segrist, we said is coming out for the 8th inning. He had 3 days off prior to pitching yesterday, so you really don't want to go more than 3 days anyway as a reliever without throwing.
One 1-0 pitch. 1 ball, 1 strike. The last home run that Pete Kozma hit was at this ballpark, the opening series of 2 years ago. So it's been a long time for Pete. Here's a 1-1. 1 ball, 2 strikes. The 1-2 to Kozma. And that's hit out of play. The 2-2. Kozma with a fly ball into foul territory. I got a little sidetracked by the individual just below us, Rick. I don't know if you hear that guy, but
I hear him.
He's trying to put the hex on the Cardinals here.
Oh, he's making himself known. So you were sidetracked there, you say?
I was. Everything's all right. Carpenter with a solo home run back in the 3rd. Walked and scored in the 7th. Cardinals leading 5-2. Moss back to the bag safely. How about that? 70 miles an hour floating in to the strike zone.
Well, there's a kind of a range where you're in hitting speed. You kind of want to stay above that hitting speed, or if you can't get there, go ahead and stay below it.
Here's the 0-1. Popped foul and out of play just below our radio booth. Raboski working on the radio side tonight. Al seemed to be deep into the action as he was checking his phone. I see that maybe you are as well. You know what? I need you two to focus a little bit more.
How do you know we're not texting each other talking about you? It wouldn't be the first time.
There's Jim Jackson, who's been the radio producer and engineer in the back there for a number of years. Here's a 1-2 pitch. And Carpenter sends it into shallow right. Second baseman makes the catch. That's Aaron Hill. And we head to the bottom of the 8th. Segrist coming on when we come back. Some of the sights from tonight's game and the highlights. 5-2, bottom of the 8th. We were just watching Kevin Segrist with his warm-up tosses. He had one that was a strike, and there were a number of pitches. And take from it what you will. It's warming up, but sometimes it carries over into a game. It's our Chevy call to the pen, but he was bouncing a number to the plate. Did you see that?
Yeah, he didn't look comfortable, and he was looking at the mound a little bit. Of course, the last pitch was fine. You mentioned that, and maybe he's ready to go and has that behind him. And honestly, when you warm up, you just kind of want to get everything kind of locked in mentally, and you know the strikes don't matter much unless they don't come when the batter steps in the box.
And the first pitch is taken for a ball at 94 miles an hour. Kevin's had a tremendous season. He was great in 2013. Last year injury plagued, and very good again here in 2015. Jake Lamb is at the plate. He's been on base 3 times, 2 walks to go along with a single. And quickly, 2 balls, no strikes.
Nice to see him come back after an injury, and think about the years we had hoped for the same from Mark Mulder, who's at the ballpark here tonight. Down in the Cardinals dugout saying hello to a lot of friends and former teammates, and good to see him here.
Mark lives here in the offseason, so this is like a home game for him, but he works for ESPN, and you'll see him in studio or the various ballparks.
He's here as a fan today. Brought his son, and they're just kind of hanging out.
On the outside corner, and a strikeout to start the night for Kevin Segrist. If Segrist would have issues in this game, and it looks like he's off to a good start, obviously. You haven't seen Rosenthal much. This could be more of a 1-inning save in terms of maybe having to get 4 or 5 outs, but so far so good for Kevin Segrist. Just something to think about.
Well, you also have Cishek to back him up in this inning. We've already seen him get loose. I'd have no qualms about bringing Cishek into a game that's this close in the 8th inning. I think he's earned that.
This has been a game, when you look at it from Arizona's point of view, of missed opportunities.
No doubt.
Bases loaded situations, runners in scoring position. They have stranded 9 tonight. Cardinals have left 8 on. They lead 5-2. 1 ball, 1 strike. Aaron Hill at the plate. Good off-speed pitch. Had him way out in front.
Changeup has been a good pitch for Segrist all season long. It's actually gotten better and better. Got the 3-finger grip, and it just kind of dies. And what I've liked is his command with that pitch. He throws a lot of strikes with that changeup. May throw another one. One thing we haven't mentioned, Dan, it's very comfortable here at Chase Field, indoors. Outside today, not so much. I believe it was a high of 107 here.
Oh, he did go. So a strikeout And that's 2 in a row for Kevin Segrist. I'm assuming that's on the swing. No?
No, there's no swing there. I think he just called that on the inside corner. I think it was meant to be away, so kind of caught a little funny by Yachty. And there's no swing. And there's also no strike.
You're right. Yeah.
But
it was so far inside, I thought, well, there's no way that that's going to be a strike.
Well, it looked to the naked eye more inside than it really was because of the fact that it was supposed to be away. So you can see the little bit of the fastball command problems with Segrist. He's thrown a few pitches that have missed the location, but man, when you're throwing 95 miles an hour, I guess you get away with some things. I don't really know. I've just heard.
Saltalamacchia base it into left. When you were throwing your hardest, how hard were you throwing?
With a good stiff wind behind me, I'm going to exaggerate a little bit and say 87.
You threw harder than that.
No, I threw about 87. That was a different gun, too. I mean, we used to have.
I had you like 88, 89.
No, I was more consistently 85, 86. I was better at 85 and 86 than I was at 87.
More movement.
More movement.
Spotted a little bit better.
And below hitting speed.
Here's Nick Ahmed. First pitch taken for a ball.
I think you can add 3.5. I mean, most people would say 3.5 miles an hour towards some of the velocities that you would hear in the 70s and 80s because of the type of gun that was being used then versus what's being used now.
Here's a 1-0 pitch with the runner at first. That gets away from Molina, and the runner stays put. Saltalamacchia stays at first base and gives a gift to the Cardinals.
I don't know how he read this so poorly. He had all kinds of time to go.
And part of that too, Rick, was that he was just standing there after doing,
I mean, it wasn't even an attempt.
2 or 3 steps, yeah,
Right.
and easily could see that that ball was near the on-deck circle. And it's 3-0.
Again, the little bit of command issues coming out here for Kevin.
Cishek is up and throwing again. 3-0 pitch.
We have had very active and sensitive field mics today, haven't we?
We have.
We can hear a lot. I like it.
Popped up, and this should do it here for the 8th inning. This is Cosma, and he puts it away. We head to the 9th. St. Louis 5, Arizona 2.
2 lead into the 9th inning. And it'll be 2, 3, and 4 for the Redbirds.
So that means Tommy Pham, who had a key hit for the Cardinals, a base hit that scored a couple. In the air out to left, and a sliding catch by Peralta. Hesitated just a bit with that ball right at him.
Replacing his divot. Kind of made that play look hard, didn't he?
Indeed. And it brings in Johnny Peralta. Five to 2, St. Louis. A swing and a miss by Peralta, who singled to left field, grounded out to third, walked and then struck out. Second inning of work for Cole Mentor. Two strikes, 1-2 the count on the Cardinals shortstop.
I heard this many a time from the opposing dugout, but it was also my favorite Jack Clark line. You know, the bench jockeying. Some guys were good at it. Jack was great. Jack never said a lot, but when he'd say it, it was always interesting. And a guy like Coleman, he'd yell at him in the middle of a pitch, go back and warm up.
As Peralta makes the catch off the bat of Johnny Peralta.
The guy that didn't throw hard, that's,
sure,
you know, just what you'd hear. That's it.
AT&T U-verse rewind. And Matt Carpenter back in the third, tied the game up at 1. Measured at 432 feet, the AT&T U-verse rewind.
And I'm assuming a souvenir for the center field cameraman or woman. Went right in that little slot there in center field.
There's a base hit into left center off the bat of Jason Hayward. A 2-out hit here in the top of the 9th. This copyrighted telecast presented by the authority of the Cardinals. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of your St. Louis Cardinals. Yadier Molina, a 2-out base hit that scored 2 back in the 7th. Good work by the bullpen tonight of St. Louis. Jonathan Broxton, the scoreless 7th. Segrist, a couple of strikeouts in the 8th. It's now 69 for the Cardinals lefty. Into shallow right, and we move to the bottom of the 9th. Trevor Rosenthal will come on when we come back. Cardinals leading 5-2. Chase Field in Arizona. And the top of the lineup for the Cardinals closer, Trevor Rosenthal, who's 38 of 40 in save opportunities this year.
Well, there's more left of this game, Dan, but I have thoroughly enjoyed this game. I think there's been a lot of good moments in it and a lot of opportunities back and forth. And now it's up to Trevor Rosenthal to do what he's done all season long, close the game out. Has not had very many clunkers this year. The fastball command has been a lot better than a year ago. And the year ago, he was good, really good. But he's even better, in my mind, this year.
Talking with Trevor before the game about his All-Star game experience, and he said it was once in a lifetime.
Oh, it's going to be more than that.
You would think. And he said, the one thing I really took away from the experience is that the guys on the other side and the guys around the league, a lot of it is all the same. You know, you're so used to how the Cardinals do it and just the little things, how you travel, what's done before and after games in the clubhouse. And he said you find out that the rest of the game, a lot of the players, it's all the same.
Guys are said they're so, boy, that is so true. Once you get traded, you have that experience. And, you know, I hope Trevor Rosenthal never experiences that. He stays with the Cardinals and enjoys his time with the Cardinals. But once you're kind of traded around, you realize you make friends in other places, and the game is, you know, taught by guys that have played before you, and there are a lot of similarities.
He and his lovely wife are expecting their second child coming up in September. 1-2 pitch. There's the changeup. And I said, you know, you've had so much success as a closer, albeit it's early in your career. you know, he used to tell me he always wanted to start. And I said, is that still in the back of your mind? Is that something you want to do? Here's a 1-2 pitch that misses in. And he started to give me a cliche answer. Well, this is where I'm at right now, and I've got to do my job. And he said, but do I think about starting? Absolutely. It took a while to get there. And he said, yeah, that's something that he still thinks about. Inciarte just got a piece. Rosenthal, you know, he does have the curveball, and at one point it was a great pitch when he was in the minor leagues. But now we see it more times than not, Rick. It's fastball changeup.
I would say he doesn't have the curveball. I would say he had it. I mean, he knows how to throw it. It's just not been an effective pitch for him. And of course, to be a starter, you ought to have 3 pitches. And it would probably come back if he went back in that role again. But what he's been doing with fastball and changeup has been extraordinary.
2-2. Put in play to short. Peralta. And there's Reynolds. Out number 1. You know, Mark Reynolds has had some issues at the plate with the strikeouts that are starting to pile up. That's not to be unexpected. However, I think what we found out is that defensively, he's a good player. He's a lot better than I thought he was going to be.
We were told early on by guys that had him before, the Milwaukee broadcasters told us, they said, wait till you see him play for. He's good.
Yeah.
He does have good hand, but I would not have thought that. There's the curveball we were talking about. Now, you can say he has a curveball, but I would say he doesn't right now. Ball just slips out of his hands, and that's not really going to have any effect.
A.J. Pollock at the plate. And a changeup is low. 56 2/3 innings for Rosenthal this year. 63 strikeouts to go along with 19 walks. And that was an issue for him a year ago. Remember the walks? Part of that was how he was used. That pitch at 98. He was used an awful lot. He was ridden hard in that first half of the season, and that's a byproduct of adding Cishek and Broxton now to this bullpen. They could be selective in his usage.
Agreed.
That's whacked into right field. Hayward is back. He'll look up, and it's off the wall. A 1-out double, A.J. Pollock.
Well, behind in the count, even if you throw high 90s, that can happen. I still love to see what Hayward, and I've seen it from Piscotty a lot, they just get the ball as quickly as they can, get it in the infield. And Pollock can fly, but I just love to see outfielders playing the game right.
There's a fun matchup here. Goldschmidt and Rosenthal. Fly ball into right field. That tails to Hayward. So the Cardinals have kept Goldschmidt in the ballpark and off the base paths. Let's turn to our player of the game, a presentation of Budweiser. Yadier Molina 2 for 5 and a key hit with 2 outs, bases loaded to score 2. It was part of the 3-run 7th inning that broke open a 2-2 game at the time.
We like the Cardinals bullpen. You mentioned that, but I like the fact that the Cardinals have had back-to-back good offensive games. 5 runs in this game on 9 hits, and good to follow up on what they did the last game in San Diego.
Strike 1 on David Peralta. The Cardinals can get the final out here. Pittsburgh would stay 3.5 back of St. Louis. Chicago 6.5 games out. The Cardinals would improve to 7 games above 500 on the road. 18 above 500 against the West. The Central Division with 3 teams with 72 or more wins. Only one other team above 70 in all of baseball. That's Kansas City. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Base hit into right. And the tying run will come to the plate. So David Peralta extends the ball game. Chip Hale will go to his bench. Yasmani Tomas. Tomas was 6 for 14, 2 doubles, 3 RBIs against the Cardinals in the series back at Busch Stadium.
That's a pretty good pitch right there. That's up and in. You'd think that would tie up Peralta, but that's hit number 4 for him. And more work to do for Trevor Rosenthal. This guy was crushing the Cardinals last time I saw him. Good season, 293.
.99 on the gun. 8 home runs, 43 RBIs. He represents the tying run at the plate. The 0-1. And again, the Diamondbacks down to their final strike. Cardinal fans on their feet here in Arizona. The 1-2 pitch. Triple digits from Rosenthal as he hit 100.
How do you take that pitch? So close.
The 2-2. There it is, a strikeout of Yasmani Tomas. Rosenthal. And the Cardinals now improved to 79-45 this year. Three hours, 19 minutes, and the Cardinals have improved to 2-2 on the road trip.
Fun game to watch here. First game of a 4-game series in Phoenix. Cardinals offense showed up again today in a big way with the 3-run 7th inning. Yadier Molina the big hit. And a good start from Lance Lynn.
Jim and Jim are standing by with the post-game show. Key play in this game, a bunt that Garcia runs from first to third on. Eventually he would score. Part of that 3-run 7th. The final out.